and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here today to do a collective reading for the Pluto Jupiter conjunction that happened on the 5th or the 4th depending on where you were. I was going to do this reading yesterday, but unfortunately my cat had kittens at the very time that conjunction was taking place. So at the same time as that conjunction was taking place, Pluto and Jupiter were making a square over to Eris in Aries, which is all very confusing. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the astrology of what was going on. Bear with me, and I will do this quickly before I do the actual card reading. I'd just like to say welcome to anybody who has come back and rejoined my channel. Thank you very much. And for anybody who's new to this channel, thank you very much for coming here to see what it's all about. And I will hopefully keep you entertained enough for you to want to find out right to the very end. So the Pluto conjunction, Jupiter square Eris, took place at Jupiter and Pluto being 24 degrees and 53 minutes, which is more or less 25 degrees. So if you're going to read any of the Sabian symbols, if you know anything about the Sabian symbols, if you're going to read them, you would read probably both 24 and the 25 to see what they're saying. I'm not going to go into them at this moment in time today. I might do a video later on the Sabian symbols and how they connect with each degree of every sign as well. All very interesting. So Pluto is the lord of the underworld, and he rules over death, birth, rebirth, secrets, darkness, things that are kept hidden, and transformation. And it's the smallest planet in our solar system. Planet in brackets, because it's no longer classed as a planet. So Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, so the biggest and the smallest planet joined up. And Zeus, or Jupiter, Zeus as he was known in the Greek, is lord of the overworld, and he rules over things like optimism. He's the bringer of joy, deliverer of gifts, expansion, expansiveness, promises, higher mind and higher truth, truth in general. And so, as I was saying, at the same time as this conjunction was taking place, so in many ways those two planets coming together is kind of a meeting of the light and the dark. And so it's kind of coming out of the dark and into the light. But at the same time as that was taking place, like I said, we had Eris in Aries squaring off to these two planets. Now, Eris is not as well known as either Pluto or Jupiter. So I will give you a little bit of background on who Eris is. So Eris is known as the goddess of discord, and true to her name, on her discovery in 2003, Eris set up a huge turmoil in the astronomical realm, as she was not the only heavenly body to be found. So around about the same time, there was two new heavenly bodies found, and it caused a huge conflict, the biggest conflict amongst the astronomical world that has been seen for a long time. And it ended up with Pluto being demoted down to a dwarf planet. So instead of us having an extra two planets, and having, instead of 9 planets in our solar system, having 10 and 11 planets in our solar system, it was decided that was too many, and we had to make, or they made a decision as to how big a planet should be to be classed a planet. And because Eris is actually bigger than Pluto, Eris became a planet, and Pluto became a dwarf planet. At the same time as Eris was discovered, there was also another asteroid, which is also larger than Pluto, that was called Haumea. So yeah, interestingly, originally Eris was going to be called Xena, after the Xena warrior goddess of the same show, the Xena warrior goddess show, that was very famous back in the, I think it was the 80s, 90s. And also Eris in Greek mythology is the sister of Mars, or also known as Aries, who is the ruler of Aries. So Eris has also got her own moon as well. So Eris was going to be called Xena, and her moon was going to be called Gabriel, after the other character in the Xena warrior series, who kind of basically helps Xena with all her her armour and all the things that she needs, basically. But it was decided to call Eris in 2006, and also to rename Gabriel the moon Dysnomia, which also happens to be Eris's daughter. And so in the Roman version of Eris, Eris being the Greek version, in the Roman version, Eris is known as Discordia. So she is the planet of discord and strife, which, as I said, is what she did immediately she was discovered. So Eris is now seen as representing the side of the feminine nature that has, over the centuries, been forced to be repressed and oppressed and discarded as a troublemaker. So it's that side of the feminine nature that was kind of seen as probably being too masculine to be feminine. So it was always seen as being a problem. It should be something that should be kind of removed from the female psyche. And to do that, we had to suppress it and oppress it within the female history and within the female person nature itself. So Eris has been in the sign of Aries since 1922. So everyone has been born since 1922 has an Eris placement somewhere in Aries. And Eris, of course, is the masculine sign of the warrior. It is the warrior, the Aries being the Lord, the god of war, Mars. And Eris has been moving through the masculine sign of the warrior, bringing to birth the female warrioresses that are rising today on our planet. So those that were born back previously, who are now reaching a certain age, are bringing through this Eris energy, this feminine energy of no longer being able to be kept down and ignored and discarded and not relevant, and you know, women should know their place, and that place is in the home and you do as you're told. It's no longer the case. So this female warrioress has been rising on the planet for both good and bad. But it's also breaking into the very patriarchal domain of the corporate, masculine dominated structural world, which has been created over these centuries by men in particular, very masculine driven men who see themselves as being of a higher importance, shall we say, than the feminine energy. So Eris and Pluto will be in an ongoing square throughout the rest of 2020. And just as this conjunction of Pluto and Jupiter will happen 3 times in a gradual process of bringing what's been hidden from us in the dark out into the light, of which there is so much the human race is totally oblivious to, Eris in this square is bringing in the rise of the female Gaia goddess energy. And Eris is also the daughter of the primordial god Erebus, who was known as the god of darkness and shadow, and also ruled over the underworld. So he probably predated Pluto and Hades. And his wife, which is Eris's mother, was the goddess Nyx, who also was known as the dark goddess of the night, who would bring sleep or death to the human race, along with disease, ghosts, dreams, witchcraft and enchantments. So you can see why the feminine side of things, the female nature, has been kind of much maligned over these past centuries as well. So a later story also puts Eris as the daughter of Zeus and Hera. So either way, her parentage is very strong. She is a goddess in her own right. And as such, she has been, she's now saying that she's very strong. She's a strong energy. She's not going to be ignored or discarded anymore. She's not going to be kept down. She is the female. She has been within the female psyche for so long. She's here now to tell us she will be heard, and we will listen, and we will understand the power she has. And I think that that's very relevant if you think of the kind of the Me Too movement of what's been going on over this past kind of few years, and the kind of rising up of the female energy, saying, like, you know, enough is enough. Eris is playing a huge part in all of that. The kind of placement of the Eris sign or energy within that Aries, each degree, if you like. Somewhere there is an Eris placement in everybody since 1922, and so that's nearly 100 years now that Eris has been in Aries. And also she's not leaving Aries until 2044, so there's still quite a few years to go before Eris is going to have her final kind of push towards this real kind of strong feminine. But it is in many ways the rising up of this feminine energy, especially as Eris also went direct 2 days before the Saturn Pluto conjunction that happened on the 12th of January. So she also was playing a part in that as well, squaring off to that energy and just turning direct at that same time. So that energy was kind of being pulled in at the same time as that conjunction was happening as well. So there is a lot of connection with what's happening now as well with this Pluto and Jupiter conjunction, as I was saying, coming out of the dark and into the light. And that's basically what this Eris energy is with the feminine as well. It's kind of been kept in the dark for so long that it's now going to come out into the light. I almost feel as though it's going to kind of erupt out of the kind of darkness and the kind of, like, you know, being that suppressed, almost kind of volcanic like as well, because Aries being a fire energy, it can be seen as quite kind of fiery and eruptive, almost kind of an aggressive style to it as well. So that being said, I'm going to start the reading for the collective here, and at the heart of this reading today for the collective conjunction we have the Six of Wands or rods, in reverse. So this normally speaks of a victory or a celebration when it's up the right way. It's kind of saying that there's something for us to celebrate. We've kind of reached a point in our journey, if you like, collectively, where we're feeling that we've kind of, you know, it's time to give ourselves a break and say well done. But because this is reversed, it's saying here that nobody's really feeling like celebrating at this moment in time. Nobody's really wanting to kind of recognize how far we've come, and really all we're seeing is kind of this kind of horizon stretching out in front of us, of kind of how far have we yet to go. But it's crossed over with the world here. So this is the challenge, and the challenge is about realizing that we have reached the end of this cycle and that we are moving into a new beginning. This is a lovely card, even though it's a challenging card, even though it's something that we're having to kind of come to terms with and recognize. It is a really good card to have, in that sense that it's saying that what we had has reached a culmination. It's reached an ending. It really has reached a point of no return. And that is also what this Jupiter and Pluto conjunction is about as well. And also interestingly as well, because both Jupiter and Saturn are such huge planets, and they have a long, as I've spoken about briefly before, they have very wide orb of influence, about 10 degrees orb of influence. And so Saturn has only recently moved into Aquarius and is still at 0 degrees. And this conjunction has taken place more or less at 25 degrees. So Saturn is still kind of being pulled into this energy as well. It's kind of ending of the old and the traditional. It's still ongoing. And this is really what this is all about. And this is what we're seeing all across the planet at the moment, even though we're not kind of recognizing it yet. This is the old being brought down, being brought to its knees. And as I said, this the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction is going to happen 3 times this year. And we also have Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter all going to be retrograde by May, or all getting ready to go retrograde in May. So that's what we have at the heart of our reading, and what we have in our head, which I think is very interesting, and I think it fits in really nicely with this card here of not wanting to celebrate. Is almost this kind of energy I get from this today is going backwards, almost like a feeling of we're going backwards, that like collectively we don't feel as though we're moving forwards at all. We don't feel as though we're kind of, we don't see any evidence, shall we say, of movement. We don't see any evidence of things changing. We don't see any evidence of having come out of this old cycle and into this new cycle yet. And we won't see it yet, because it is an ongoing process, and this is something that's going to probably not really appear until 2021, 2022, and we'll really be able to look back and go, oh, it really did change. Things really did shift. So that's what I think this card here is saying, is that at this present time we're not feeling very enthusiastic about it. We're not feeling very positive about it. There's kind of lack of, almost like a kind of a despondent energy here. Page being a young energy, an energy that needs to be nurtured, taken care of and looked after. And maybe that's the space that we're all in at the moment. But because it's fire and creativity, it's kind of, it's not being able to go anywhere or create anything at this moment in time. We're all kind of in our own space, not being able to connect with anything or celebrate with anybody. So the energy that's been around for a while in the collective, 2 cards came out here. The 7 of Pentacles, which can be about a kind of harvesting after a time of putting in your energy and your effort into something. Pentacles being the physical realm, it's what we do in the physical and the kind of results that we see in the physical realm. And the Hierophant here, for me, being the kind of feeling of being kept in the dark. When the Hierophant's up the right way, he kind of represents this teacher, this kind of teaching, this learning, this higher spiritual energy, learning from a higher realm. The scroll, I always think of it as being our own inner journey, if you like, our own or our external and internal journey in life, the spiritual side of our understanding and our knowledge and our wisdom. But because it's in reverse, I feel at the moment that there is just this kind of feeling of being in the dark, that nobody really knows what's going on. This card can also, for me, it represents a dilemma as something that's being offered here. But this character doesn't know whether he should accept what's being offered, whether it would send him down a completely wrong path. And I feel that we are kind of in this energy of not really having much idea of what's going on around us. Trusting, who do we trust, who do we not trust? Because that's really what he needs to do here, is decide, can he trust what's being offered? Is it real? And there's also an element of truth within this card as well. Seeking the truth, finding the truth, knowing the truth. It relates to the Sagittarius energy for me, the Hierophant. Sagittarius of higher knowledge, higher wisdom, higher understanding, and also this light here, seeking that light, that higher light which is within us all. And also because it's in the cave and it's in the dark, and it's kind of the hidden unknown, can relate quite strongly to the kind of Pluto energy in many ways, and also the Eris energy in the sense of kind of the darkness. What's been kind of repressed and oppressed and not been allowed to be brought into the light. And underneath today in the collective reading we have the Emperor, who literally does represent this Zeus Jupiter energy. The top dog, top god, Zeus. Very powerful. But it's in our subconscious realm. This is in the kind of where this is all coming from. So for me today, this is representing the very kind of patriarchal system. The kind of very traditional, very kind of like, you know, the gods were the kind of, in Greece, the gods were always the kind of, how can you put it? And they all answered to Zeus. All the gods and the goddesses answered to Zeus. But there's this kind of energy, even separate within the gods and the goddesses. Like the goddesses were almost always seen as being kind of more troublemaking and more emotional on some level. Like they kind of would have their passionate fits about things and upset somebody, or kind of work against somebody if they upset a goddess, or this is how it was seen. You know, you kind of, if you upset that goddess or that god, you had to kind of pay the price, the kind of karmic revenge, if you like, from the gods and the goddesses. So they held a lot of sway, but they are also the planets. So the planets do actually hold a heck of a lot of sway in our lives. So this to me is this Jupiter energy, which, although it can also represent, and Jupiter is also the ruler of this Sagittarius energy here as well. The higher mind, the truth, the wisdom, the seeking, the law. And of course they, like Zeus, I mean, the gods and the goddesses lived on Mount Olympus, so they were kind of raised above the human race anyway, in that respect too. So there is this kind of hierarchical, patriarchal system that is represented, I feel, by this card today, because this is our subconscious, this is our kind of, you know, this is our past, if you like, our history, our story in many ways, generational story as well. That the masculine energy always had the power in many ways. But the energy that we're moving into in this collective is this card here, the Hierophant. Sorry, not the Hierophant, the Hermit. I was thinking of the Hierophant when I said that, because it suddenly reminded me very much of this light here, this seeking of light. This is all about our kind of inner journey, inward looking, reflective, which probably at this moment in time there is going to be that space for people to be able to do this a lot more than they've ever been able to do it before, because their minds are not going to be so cluttered. They're not going to be so weary with things as well. So this is kind of almost like, you know, a mass kind of chrysalis stage in many ways, of people who have not asked themselves these bigger questions before about life being given the opportunity. It's almost like the universe is saying time out before we move forward, to kind of get rid of the old and the dead and the things that we no longer need in our lives, things that are no longer working for us, things that are no longer kind of healthy for us. And also kind of realization of how we've been kind of held in place or manipulated, or I feel a strong kind of like awakening to this kind of patriarchal, very strong patriarchal energy that has been kept in place. Through the use of, you know, these darker kind of energies as well. And so what came out in our hopes and our fears is the 8 of Cups, which sees us going down into this kind of mass very similar. I mean, it is this kind of energy here as well, that kind of need to go down into our own psyches, into our own emotional kind of pit, if you like, into that kind of, you know, what has led us to where we are now, how have we got to where we are, what has brought us here, which is what all these cups are representing. Each of these cups represents a kind of realization that doing the same thing, if you like, in the same way is just going to lead to the same story continuing. But it is in reverse, so there is this kind of feeling of people kind of trying to avoid this, trying to stay out of that energy of not wanting to go into the deeper psychic world, the subconscious realm, the kind of feelings, the emotions, the blur kind of energy of like, I don't like that energy, I don't want to go there, I don't want to look at that, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to know about it. And this could be what is going to be coming up for us in a very, very big way, as I said, as we come out of the dark and into the light. But as we come out of that dark and into the light, there's going to be a lot of things coming up on a global scale that people really do not want to know. And this also has something to do with Eris as well. I feel that feminine kind of unwanted energy. The Eris energy in the modern world could also be likened to Maleficent as well in many ways, that kind of unwanted, like she wasn't invited to the wedding. So when she actually, not the wedding, the christening of the baby, sorry. So when she actually arrived, she was so angry that she decided she was going to kind of throw a real spanner into the works of all the happiness and the celebration that was happening at that time, and cast that spell that was kind of supposed to kill Aurora, but didn't, because the fairy managed to change it to her just sleeping for 100 years. Which is kind of what we have been doing as well. We have been sleeping for so long. We've kind of been manipulated and kept in this kind of realm of darkness and kind of slumber, of not really knowing what the truth is and just kind of existing on a day-to-day level. Which is what I also think this card is saying here, that because we're no longer having to do that, we can now kind of focus our attention on something else, even though that something else may be something we're not so keen on experiencing. On many levels, you have to clear out. It's like you have to clear out that muck and that yuck and that, you know, in order. It's a bit like, if you think of what's happening on the planet at the moment, it's almost like it's a mass representation of that. It's like when you fall ill, you have to clear out your system. That's what I'm feeling with this card here. And also it's come out with this card, which is the Wheel of Fortune. And again, it's in the dark, it's in the kind of depths of the subconscious realm, the caves. And I'm just going to say now that there is something going on with Pluto having been in the sign of Capricorn, which is an earth sign, since 2008. And Pluto is an excavator. Basically, Pluto goes into the underworld. He is the underworld, and he digs and digs right down into the very, very depths of everything that is hidden, is kept in the dark. It's all that stuff, and Pluto is bringing it, well, this conjunction with Pluto and Jupiter is bringing it up into the light. It's bringing it up above the ground, because Zeus is the overworld, Jupiter is the overworld. Pluto is the underworld. So it's been brought out. So there's something, and it kind of has a connection with darkness, underground, the underground world, things that have been happening under the earth that we as human beings are not all privy to. We haven't had all the information of what has truly been going on within our world, underground, and tunnels. So I'm just going to say, keep your ears open and your eyes open, and be alert for things that are coming out of the dark, out of the underworld, out of the under the earth. And that may all sound a bit crazy to you at the moment, and you may think that I'm a complete lunatic, and you may switch off now and say, she's just nuts. But I'm just going to say, just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Whether you believe me or don't believe me, just keep it in mind as we move forward into the rest of April and May. Okay, so the Wheel of Fortune here, in our kind of hopes and our fears, is that things are going to change, and it is very much linked with this World card as well, which is covering at this moment in time our challenge, moving forward, things changing, turning the wheel, coming out of the dark and into the light. Again, is the strong feeling of this energy. And realizing that we are the center of this universe, our own universe. We create, our thoughts create so strongly what happens. And the energies are shifting on the planet. Things are happening during this Pluto conjunction with Jupiter, the human resonance. If you don't know what the human resonance is, it is the kind of resonance of the earth. It's the vibratory frequency that the earth has. There's a certain frequency, I think it's about 7.2, 7.3, I might be wrong there, but during this conjunction it kind of escalated. There was a massive spike, and there has been a lot of these spikes happening, and it kind of resonates or kind of registers the emotional kind of events in many ways of what's taking place on the planet. And so during this conjunction there was a massive spike, and you can go online, you can look it up, and you can see it, you can put it into YouTube, you will find videos talking about it. Again, if you don't know anything about it, I suggest you go and look up the Schumann, SCHUMMAN resonance. Very interesting. So this to me again is all about the underworld. This is all about our kind of being kept in the dark. Being kept in the dark, of kind of not being given the truth about how powerful we as individuals really are. And that we help to create what's in our own life, and also what happens outwardly as well. So I would say on a kind of more base level that we are kind of all hoping that things are going to change, that things are going to come out into the light, out of the darkness into the light. And I do feel that they are. I do feel that things are, this cycle is ending, and there is this new start coming. And the kind of, I wouldn't say outcome as such, but it's a kind of where we're heading, shall we say, energy. And this is a lovely energy. Again, it's a page, but it's a page that's all about growth, planting new seeds, and kind of realizing, I think on many levels, you know, that these seeds We are creating something new. We can create something new. We have the potential to do that. We have the potential to plant and to also to connect back with nature as well. I think that's really vital at this moment in time, is this creating this kind of connecting back to nature and our whole and well, just the wholeness of what that can give us, the fact that it gives us everything. And really at this moment in time, with everything that's going on, nature is kind of just doing its own thing. And again, if you go online, you can Google or YouTube videos about how the animals are kind of coming back in and kind of taking back these park spaces and all these kind of places that they haven't been so kind of keen to go into, because so much human activity and the, you know, the fear element from humans that have kind of hunted them, and, you know, for so long. So there is this kind of energy of something new being birthed here. Again, it is this new birthing. It is this kind of, for me, it represents this here. This new world, if you like, this new idea, this new way of kind of living with our planet, rather than as destructively as we have been, just kind of taking everything for granted and just taking it as we overdoing it. So much goes to waste, and so much is kind of just taken for granted. You know, there's people who don't have enough, and then there's people who have more than they need. And this has kind of been highlighted again with what's happening at this moment in time on this planet as well. People who have kind of, the fear element has arisen in them, and they've just kind of rushed out and just thought of themselves and their own family instead of thinking about anybody else. And so that kind of, you know, kind of two types of energy in a way. You know, there's those that are just kind of living in that fear and just like, you know, every man for themselves, and then you've got those people who are kind of out there thinking, you know, how is my fellow human being coping here? Can I do anything to actually help them in their lives? So I think this is what this is about as well. It is this kind of new start, new beginning. What do we value? Why do we value it? How can we live from a different space as well? And if you see here, he kind of has this over his heart as well, over his heart chakra. And the heart chakra is all about the green. It's all about the green. It is the green energy, the heart chakra. It's the reason why when you go out in nature, you feel good. Nature makes you feel good. Because you connect at the heart level. Even if you're not aware of it, it's what happens. So I'm going to pull some more cards and see what we have for our Six of Wands and the World. What is the energy? I'm not taking that one because it didn't feel right. If it comes out again, like sometimes they do when I don't take them, they have a habit, then I'll take it this time. But if not, then we'll see. Okay. I have the Five of Fire in reverse, and this card is always, to me, it's my unhappy, I don't want to, I'm not going to, I'm just going to plonk myself right down here, and I'm just going to wait and see what happens. This is my card of kind of despondence, and if you look here, you've got the 5 and the 6. I know this came after, but you've kind of got that same kind of energy here. It's kind of, I'm not going to celebrate. I don't have anything to celebrate, so why on earth would I be celebrating? Because for me, this card always reminds me of somebody who's kind of all dressed up, but she's got nowhere to go. It's kind of like, you know, the party, either she's been to the party and the party's ended and she's kind of on her own, which could be this energy today that I'm picking up here, is this kind of feeling of like, you know, being very much on our own here. And this separation of everybody kind of like, you know, looking at each other with this kind of, you know, don't get too close. A kind of fear element as well. But there's definitely this kind of thing of I'm not celebrating, I'm not kind of, you know, what's the point of having a party when nobody's going to come? What's the point of the celebration? We can't celebrate. So it's a weird energy, because I feel that, you know, people have got all this time on their hands, and yet they're having to kind of stay clear of their friends, even like family members who don't live in the same household are kind of having to keep their distance as well. So it is a very odd energy at the moment. So it kind of just clarifies that, I suppose. This is still our challenge, to balance ourselves, the masculine and the feminine energy as well, to kind of find that harmony within both. And the snake with the kind of his tail in his mouth represents that never-ending cycle of life that goes on: birth, death, rebirth. But there also is butterflies in this card as well. So there is this kind of, you know, a transformative energy here as well. 5s are always adverse energy. It's always about adversity, difficulties, conflicts, doubting ourselves, insecurities, those kind of energies, those kind of feelings at the very heart of our reading today for the collective. And I'm not at all surprised, because that also has that kind of square over to Eris as well, which is all about discord and strife and things not going easily. Squares being a challenge in themselves, but squaring over to an energy that's also discordant and full of strife, conflict, is not going to make it any easier for us at this moment in time. So it really is like lockdown. It really is kind of like mental, emotional, physical lockdown on our kind of psyche as well, if you like. So what is the reason for the Page of Wands? Why is the Page of Wands here in reverse? Why is the Page of Wands here in reverse? Okay. Oh, we have the Page of Air with the Page of Wands also in reverse. So the Page of Wands being that energy of almost feeling like we're going backwards, I feel, back into the past. This feeling kind of nothing moving forward, not seeing any evidence of anything moving forward. And the Page of Air kind of reflecting this energy of, again, lack of movement. If you look here, she has the most beautiful angel wings. And she should be able to kind of fly and just kind of rise above everything. But I get the feeling with this being in reverse that this is very much this energy of kind of being kept, I suppose literally like in lockdown, being kept in kind of the same environment. Page of Air can often talk about like questioning, like seeking answers. It's air, so it's kind of the logical, analytical mind, if you like, wanting to know, but feeling as though you're not getting anywhere with it. And I just get this feeling of moving back into the past, and I'm not quite sure why that is, but kind of this energy of things going in the wrong direction. I also find it interesting with her feathers here as well. It's almost like she's, can never make my mind up whether she's kind of releasing them or whether she's kind of calling them in to kind of complete herself as well. But there is this element of kind of like, you know, discovery of yourself, this kind of magnificence here. So much more that we need to be aware of, I feel. But it's in reverse, so there's also this kind of energy of not being ready. Not really wanting to go there, not really wanting to look or see or understand as well. There may also be within this a kind of, you know, I don't understand, it doesn't make sense energy with this as well. But it does remind me somehow of this hermit energy. Kind of wrapping these wings around this hermit. I always get the feeling of this kind of mummified, kind of chrysalis, kind of, you know, the secrets that go on within the pupae and the chrysalis are kind of, you know, in the dark, it's hidden, nobody really knows what happens in that process of how it turns from a caterpillar into this kind of beautiful butterfly, moth type creature here. And I kind of feel that that's the kind of process that we're in, even though we don't know it, that we ourselves are in this process as a collective. Going through this change, going through this kind of this kind of inner change from coming out from being the caterpillar that we have been for so long, kind of crawling along the floor, metaphorically speaking, into kind of more emotional, well, not emotional, more kind of spiritually aware beings as well, maybe on a much higher level. And we have the Emperor who's come out again. We have him down here and we have him here, but here for me he kind of represents the Leo energies of courage. And I feel that, you know, that's something, because it's in reverse, there's a lack of that around at the moment. There's a lack of courage, there's a lack of kind of strength within us all. We're almost being drained of our own strength and our own ability to stand up. And kind of maybe that's where we've kind of allowed others to kind of trick us in a way, I feel, as well, kind of trick us into giving us something that we thought was really helpful or really good for us, but it turned out not to be. What else am I picking up with this Emperor energy? Again, it's a very masculine driving energy. Again, it's in reverse. Lion being the kind of leader, even though it isn't actually the lion, it's actually the lioness that does all the hard work, but the lion gets all the kind of praise and all the kind of glory, if you like, but it is in reverse. And this is the energy that's moving away with this. I just feel that there's also possibly a relation here to the kind of fear-driven. Everything's about kind of fear, making us like, you know, if it was upright, I would say that we were kind of finding that courage. It's like that, you know, the lion sleeps no more. It's like that roar, that kind of like, you know, but it's not. It's in reverse. So it's kind of saying to me that we are being kept in this space of almost like a energy of detraction, of kind of distraction, of keeping us from our true nature. In a sense of fear. There's a lot of fear. There is a lot of fear around. And it is stopping us from being able to. Well, fear stops you from thinking straight. It stops you from coming from a place of strength. And everywhere you go at the moment, everything you hear is about what's taking place on this planet at this moment in time. I'm not really wanting to say any of the words because I know that there's problems with people's channels. But this kind of health issue that we're all having to face at this moment, that is kind of really bringing out our just, yeah, fear. It's a strength of lack of strength. There's lack of strength here. Being, and I just feel as though it's a kind of like a manipulated energy that's kind of keeping us all down and stopping us from finding our inner strength. And I'm not saying that, you know, we should be ignoring what we're being told to do, because I don't think that's what it's about. It's not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there is so much kind of, it's almost like, you know, which is the pandemic? Is it the fear element that we're all living under? Is that doing more damage than, you know, because that's all about lowering the immune system as well. And if we lower our immune systems, then we become much more susceptible to whatever it is that's going around. So it is this kind of double-edged sword as well at the moment, I feel as well. And kind of double-edged sword here. How's it being used? And I feel as though it's very much being used against us rather than for us. It's not giving us courage and strength. It's keeping us kind of repressed and oppressed. And that could again have something to do with the Eris energy. It could also have something to do with the fact that Saturn is still very close. So over the top of the Emperor here, we have the Tower. And this card also came out with a Tower energy is literally talking to me about this deconstructing of this patriarchal system. This is the breakdown, this is the breakthrough, this is the kind of seeing things that have been blocked to us for so long. This big massive stone here is kind of keeping that, like, you can't get in there. You can't get in. It reminds me of the kind of, what I was saying earlier, kind of the story of Sleeping Beauty and the kind of, you know, the sleeping castle. We kind of, you know, it's been there for over 100 years or 100 years or more, which is literally a kind of the Eris energy as well. The fact that she stays in a planet for over 100 years, I think, is very significant as well with that story. But it's like all the kind of illumination is behind this, and there's a need for us to break through this in order to be able to see the true light of things. And I feel it's also connected to this as well, kind of breakthrough and seeing our true selves here as well, in the light, coming out of the dark again into the light. The awakening, no longer being kept under that kind of spell of sleep and not really knowing. Where's the other card? There it is, the card of the Messenger of Fire. Now this is quite fast moving energy, the Messenger of Fire. He kind of leaps from one thing to another. He doesn't kind of spend much time staying in one place. There's also a kind of childlike innocence in this card as well. And this is in the subconscious realm. So this could also be to do with us kind of returning to a time of more innocence within ourselves. Jupiter and Pluto, out of the dark and into the light. Again, I just think, you know, this relates to children, this relates to childhood, this relates to innocence, innocence lost, maybe. Collectively, innocence lost. It's in the upright position. Kind of this crown as well, I find quite interesting, because this kind of health issue that's going around at the moment literally is known as a crown. Like if you see the corona around the sun, then that's what this represents. It is the crown, the light. Like if you, when you get an eclipse, you get that corona kind of light up. So that to me is also represented here today as well. And it could also be to do with us kind of lighting up our own again, you know, the light, darkness, light, out of the darkness and into the light. It's just kind of the story that I'm seeing through this whole reading very clearly. So let's see why the Hermit is here. Let's get some clarity and some clarifying cards or card. Universe, please, for this Hermit. The Six of Earth in reverse. And this is also always about kind of give and take, receiving, not receiving. When it's upside down, there's a sense of imbalance, a sense of unfairness, a sense of kind of things not being as they seem or as they appear, which is possibly why this Hermit card as well is kind of, you're not always showing our true colours. Things aren't always as they appear. Like we can see people as being one way when in fact they are completely something else. But it's our perception. But there's a kind of fogginess around this card as well. There's a kind of, it's not a particularly clear card. It kind of, again, it kind of represents to me that Hermit energy of trying to find your balance, trying to find something that's kind of got more clarity and more understanding. But it's foggy. There's a kind of, yeah, things just aren't very clear. They just don't seem very clear to me. Trying to work out what it is that I'm getting here. I'm getting something else, but I'm not quite sure what it is. Power struggle, imbalance, power struggle. Kind of more, things are more one-sided than the other. Yeah, I think that's maybe what this is about, is that things aren't equal. There isn't an equality here. There's like, you know, things are discordant and things are out of balance and things are within the kind of physical realm as well. Things aren't in harmony. There's a disharmony here. I'm going to pull another card for that. I'm not 100% happy with that. Interesting. When I say happy, I get the Ten of Water or the Ten of Cups, which is all about happiness. It's all, and it came out upright as well. So maybe that's what it's saying here, is there is this kind of like, you know, this chrysalis stage that we're having to go through, as well as this kind of awakening. Maybe it's awakening to this imbalance and this disharmony and things not being fair and things kind of on a mass scale, kind of realization. of the, because the 6 usually represents a kind of give and take energy of things being equal. But in reverse, it definitely is saying that things are not in harmony, things are not equal, things are out of balance. But then we have this 10 of Cups here as well, which is all about happiness, it's all about joy, it's all about, this is kind of the ultimate Jupiter energy, really. Jovial, kind of very, you know, it's almost like saying don't worry, things are going to turn out okay. That's the kind of message that I'm feeling from this. Things are going to turn out okay. And this is the energy that's all moving in. And also a sense of going with the flow as well here. Go with the flow. If you want things to go, you want things to move in the right direction, go with the flow. Don't go against the imbalance. Don't find the imbalance here. Don't kind of, almost like a sense of 2 different energies. Two different energies here, which could have something also to do with what I was talking about earlier, the kind of the fear element that's really strong, and also it's like, you know, where do you put your focus of attention? Focus on the positive, and this is the outcome that we will get. Don't focus on the negative, don't focus on the disharmony, don't focus on the imbalance. Focus on the flow of things, focus on the kind of natural, the natural side of life, the way things change. And how they change, and how we have to go through these kind of darker days, if you like, in order to get to these more happier times. If you think of birth, birth is never something that's kind of easy, or I won't say never, because some people do have easy births, but even then there's kind of, you know, it's still messy and it's still painful, and, you know, it's not something that just kind of happens without its what am I getting here? It's kind of, you know, the journey of birth itself, or the kind of the process of birth itself is very, you know, labour. It's called labour for a reason. It's hard work. And it's something that is painful and dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous for both parties. It's dangerous for the mother and it's dangerous for the child during the process. But at the end of it, this is what we have. We have this intense happiness of having given birth to something that has created, we have created within us. So maybe that's what this is also about. It's the fact that we are birthing and something into existence. So over the top of our hopes and our fears, we have the Two of Water and the Magician. Two of Water's in reverse. So there is this energy at the moment of us kind of in our hopes and fears of, like, you know, relationships with people. This doesn't have to be intimate relationships, but just relationships with people in general, having to keep your distance, you know, fish in a fishbowl, kind of energy. And, you know, it's something that has created, we have created within us. So maybe that's what this is also about. It's the fact that we are birthing and something into existence. So over the top of our hopes and our fears, we have the Two of Water and the Magician. Two of Water's in reverse. So there is this energy at the moment of us kind of in our hopes and fears of, like, you know, relationships with people in general, having to keep your distance, you know, fish in a fishbowl kind of energy. if you're living in a fishbowl, you know, how easy is it to keep your distance? How big a distance can you keep from somebody? I just get the sense that this is what it's about. It's about this kind of, you know, again, you trusting people. How long is it going to be before you can kind of swim in the same water and kind of have that intimacy with people that you know and love and who are dear to you and a part of your life, who you are now having to kind of push out and alienate on some level. And we have the Magician, which is all about manifesting, and he's up the right way as well. So we've got these cards here and our hopes and our fears. So we're hoping that what we are manifesting is going to work out for us in many ways. That whatever it is that we're having to go through at this moment in time, whatever comes out the end here with this new beginning, is going to be this new, if you see here, he's got this kind of this little fairy creature in his hands that he's holding. Very difficult to see it, but there is this tiny little fairy, and he is kind of it's like he's saying, look, you know, this is the magic, if you like. This is the magic. It's tiny at this moment in time. It's very tiny, but if you keep your focus on it and if you keep your mind in a positive place, you can manifest this new world. That's what I think this represents here. This tiny little fairy represents this new world, manifestation of something new, something that we've not experienced so far to date. There it is, this tiny little fairy just down there. And so where we're heading with this Page of Pentacles and the planting of our seeds, and I think also that that's also what this little fairy here represents as well. Nice. Is the Star card, which is a beautiful card. It's a lovely card to have because it's all about healing. It's all about hope. It's all about something kind of, you know, a bigger star, bigger picture. It's like rising above. And I also feel it's about connecting with the bigger picture again as well. Kind of, you know, we've been isolated on this planet for so long that we have, even as a world, even as a race, we have isolated ourselves from the rest of the universe and seen ourselves as a very kind of self-contained planet in a way, and that we're not part of the bigger thing. You know, we don't see ourselves as being connected to everything else. We don't see that bigger picture. We don't live in that bigger picture. Most people don't even take any notice of the stars above them anymore, let alone the planets that are kind of, you know, as above, so below. Magician energy, as above, so below. What's up there is also down here, being created, manifesting, and that we are all part of it. So this star energy for me is very much saying, you know, that it's about time that we reconnect with the fact that we are not an isolated planet in ourselves, let alone our self-isolation that we're all having to go through at this moment in time. But the water here, this kind of is an Aquarius energy as well. And Saturn has just moved into Aquarius and has just conjuncted with Mars there, which has kind of given it an activation and a boost of energy and a kind of like, I suppose in a kind of way, it's a kind of a forceful kind of pushing forward energy from Mars to Saturn. And so being an Aquarius energy, there is also this kind of, which I think is for me the healing waters as well. It's kind of, she's holding this kind of picture here of very, you know, she's holding it really close as if it's very precious to her, as if what it contains is really important, and it is the water of life. It is the kind of, you know, we are all born from the water of life still. And that's something that's never changed. So again, it is about this connection. It is about nature. It is about kind of not trying to fight nature, not trying to do better than nature, not trying to overcome nature, but realize we are nature and nature is us. There is no separation, there is no disconnect there. And again, that's what I feel this star card is saying, you know, there is no disconnect from anything here. And there is a healing process within this energy, within this kind of learning, within this realization. There is a massive healing that we are not alone, never have been, and that there is more to be discovered. There is things that are going to come out that are going to be slightly shocking, I feel, as well, for a lot of people, and within that there will need to be healing again as well. So there will need to be those who can kind of step forward and help others out within that healing process. So that is where I'm going to leave those cards, and I'm going to go straight onto my Namaste blessing card here for the collective, which for me is that feminine energy, the Eris energy. Also got the eyes here. This is the female form here. And so the card itself is a blessing from your soul. And it says, you are a radiant being with many unique talents. That's interesting because I feel that that's what it's about as well, with this kind of radiance coming out here. Look with eyes of love and you will see this. Feel the creative power within you and the blessings pouring in as the healing light of your soul flows into every part of you. Namaste. So that is the Namaste blessing card here. I'll just hold this up for you to see. You can see that's what it actually says. I want to pause the video and read it, or take a snapshot of it. Now I pulled also some medicine cards from Native American Indian cards, and their wisdom from the animals, nature. And we got two cards today. So the first card we got was Badger in reverse. And Badger is badger, badger, badger. Until you reach your goal, know the inner power that lives in your soul. What I find interesting about the badger is that it lives mostly underground and it always comes out at night in the dark. So it is also a underworld creature. It's a creature who lives in holes and tunnels and burrows underground. And as I was saying earlier today during the reading, just keep your ears and eyes open for things that are coming up from under the ground. So because it's in reverse, I will just read it very quickly. I'm not going to go right into the energy of the badger here. It says badger medicine may point to the aggressive healer who will have the courage to use unconventional means to exact a cure. Like the mother who sits for days nursing a child with high fever, badger is willing to persist. Badger people can be vicious gossips or may exhibit a chip on the shoulder syndrome if they are out of balance. You can be sure that people with badger medicine will be aggressive, enough to make it to the tops of their chosen fields because they do not give up. They are also the finest healers because they will use any and all methods to ensure healing and will not give up on the critically ill, which is very assuring at this time, which is also what this card is about. It is about healing. So just quickly. Badger in the contrary position can issue in a time of reflection on what you feel helpless about. Is it your lack of aggressiveness or initiative? It kind of represents this card, as I was saying earlier as well. Is it your fear of being blasted or belittled if you present a new idea? Maybe it is a time when you need to get in touch with your own jealousy or envy of others who are willing to put themselves on top through hard work. In the reverse, badger teaches you the pitfalls of shyness and insecurity, as well as of misused or vicious aggression. Go to your feelings. Maybe you just need to let off steam. And the Emperor in reverse can be about misused aggression as well, and abuse of power. Badger can be a difficult medicine, and learning to use it properly is a rare gift. In another context, contrary badger could be calling you to use herbs and roots to heal your body. Badger reversed may also be putting you on notice to be aware of those areas of your life that need the input of someone else's aggressive creativity to spark your own. In any case, contrary badger speaks of a need for more aggressive action in life. No more inactivity can prevail without creating pain of some kind. And I feel that that's what this card is saying here, is to get out of the fear and the insecurity. And also this card here as well, as I was saying earlier, about our insecurities, our doubts about ourselves. And next we have raccoon, who's also a kind of burrowing creature as well. Raccoon, protector of the underdog, provider for those who have none. Do you wear the bandit's mask to hide the good deeds that you've done? Teach me to turn away from rich rewards or worthy acclaim, knowing that my generosity allows my warrior spirit to be reclaimed, which could also relate to this energy here. So I was talking about earlier, this imbalance of generosity and some having more, a lot more than others. So the raccoon is known as the generous protector. And raccoon carries the medicine of the protector of the underdog and provider for the young, infirm and elderly. Often called Little Bandit by southern tribes, this Robin Hood of the animal kingdom teaches us about generosity and caring for others. When raccoon comes your way, you are being asked to contact your inner warrior to become a protector and generous provider for those in need. Interesting, because that's why I think this Emperor is in reverse here, because we're not feeling like this. We're not feeling our warrior selves in this situation. Raccoon medicine people have the uncanny ability to assist others without allowing them to become victims or dependents. Like the tribal chiefs of old, Raccoon tends to the needs of the tribe before taking anything for itself. And that is the emperor power when it's in the right way up. That is how an emperor or a chief or a leader should be. That's how power should really be used. If you've got that power, you should use it for the benefit. If Raccoon wandered into your cards today, the little bandit may be telling you to look around and see who needs your strength at this time. Speak up in defense of another instead of remaining silent when others are gossiping. Maybe it is time to share the bounty of your time, energy, or possessions with the less fortunate. But remember to help those in need develop their own protector and provider skills. In all cases, Raccoon asks that you honour yourself and others equally. Provide for your own needs, or your well will be dry when you choose to give generously. Again, this card here, so maybe that's also what it's saying at this moment in time, is that we also have to be aware on some level that in order for us to be able to give to others, we also need to give to ourselves first. And I just need to take a quick slurp of my tea. Sorry about that. My throat's getting a little bit dry there. Nearly finished. Where are we? Chiefs earn their eagle feathers when they promote every human's right to self-dignity. And if you look here, he does actually have an eagle sitting there. And the eagle gives him the ability to have the bigger picture, because the eagle can soar high above and see everything from a much higher vantage point. Acting in the manner brings that same honour to yourself and to your family. So there we have it. We have the raccoon and the badger. Aggressiveness and the protector. Interesting energies. Both came out together, one in reverse, one up the right way. So I'm going to leave the reading there and say thank you very much for listening. I hope you have enjoyed this reading. It is just a collective reading that I thought I would do for this conjunction that has just taken place, and also to bring Eris into the picture as well, because I do think that Eris is playing a huge part in what's happening in our world at this moment in time as well. And I will be doing my Black Moon Lilith and Chiron. I know I've been talking about it for ages, but I am almost ready to sit down and do it. I think I'm probably going to do it more as a kind of reading the information rather than doing it as an actual card reading. So it'll just be a video of kind of what's happening, why it's happening astrologically. So again, thank you very much. Please take care. My information for my email is in the description box down below for anybody who might want a personal private reading with me. Send me an email and I'll get back to you, and we can kind of discuss the best way to move forward with that. And also, if you feel that this is of any benefit to anybody else that you know, you feel that they're open to the information, they might want to find out more, then please share it. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed already. I will be putting more videos out there in the future, so also tap that bell so that you will know when the videos are out there and you can come and have a watch. So again, thank you very much. Please take care of yourselves and see you hopefully soon.